Hey, welcome back to the Full Circle Network. Your host, I'm Marcos Melendez, the managing editor of FullCircleCinema.com, and today we got a really special review for you guys. But first off, I'm joined by my co-host today, Ernesto Valenzuela, and Katie Gilstrap.
Hey guys.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
So yeah, I'm really excited. First of all, I think this is the first podcast we've had with both of you, so I'm very excited about that. Especially since you guys are some of our best critics, and we haven't had really critics on. We kind of like act like we are, but we aren't.
Thank you. This is actually my second podcast. My first was the Avengers Endgame one.
You have a point, but that was a long time ago, and that seems like a year ago. So, anyways, yeah, we're gonna talk about DC Universe's Stargirl. Of course, this doesn't come out until May 19th, I believe. And we were lucky enough to watch the first 3 episodes early, and we're going to be just basically talking about that today. Unfortunately, of course, we can't talk about spoilers because no one's actually watched the show. So we're going to keep everything spoiler-free but still talk about all 3 episodes, which is going to be interesting, but hopefully we won't end up spoiling anything. We have kind of a list of things that WB sent us that we can't talk about, so hopefully we'll stick to that and it'll be fine. But I do wanted to start off with everyone's kind of first impressions of the show. Of course, it's kind of big. This is one of probably DC Universe's biggest shows so far. So I just want to get a quick first impressions. So any of you guys can start first.
So this is probably my second favorite DC Universe show behind Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is my favorite. But I gotta say, the music selections, the composition for the music, first of all, it's been like the biggest highlight so far for me. Breck is doing fantabulous. I really love her in the role. Luke Wilson, oh gosh, I forget how good he is sometimes, like, because he just hides in those smaller roles, but this one really seems to fit him quite well. I'm interested to see how the rest of it plays out. I know, like, according to Crisis on Infinite Earths, this is a different Earth, so we won't see a whole lot of crossover, but it'll be interesting to see how they use like the older Flash and everything. So
this is one of the first DC Universe originals and show I've followed. I mean, I haven't really watched Titans or Doom Patrol, so I can't talk and compare to its quality of those shows. But so far, what I've seen from these 3 episodes, it's phenomenal. It's a really well made show. It's got a different pulpy aesthetic to it. It's really charming. It's a really charming show. I've really enjoyed what I've seen so far from it.
Yeah, I think both of you guys kind of doesn't hit the nail on the head there. Of course, we have Wilson playing Pat Dugan, Courtney Whitmore's stepfather, who's, of course, the lead of the show, played by Breck Bassinger, who's also, of course, Stargirl. But yeah, just to echo what you guys said, I think this is certainly one of my, if not my favorite DC Universe show so far. Of course, it's too early to tell. But even with 3 episodes, I can quite confidently say that they know what they're doing. And this is probably, this is the superhero show to watch for this year. But yeah, of course, my overall thoughts, I think this is probably my favorite DC Universe show. I know it's only 3 episodes, but there's a lot to it that, once again, kind of encapsulates everything from like a good superhero drama. Of course, we have Geoff Johns behind everything. He's, of course, also the creator of Stargirl, so we have that, and overall, probably one of my favorites. So let's just dive into it. Of course, we can't talk about spoilers, but I do want to talk about the lead, of course, Breck Bassinger as Courtney Whitmore. I thought she was good. She kind of gets a little used to, because they certainly play into the high school kind of a brat aspect of the character, and you're gonna have to kind of get used to that. But I think her relationship with Pat Dugan is probably like one of the biggest highlights of the show.
Yeah, I would agree. As someone who's spent like the past 7 years watching DC TV on the CW, I was honestly kind of burned out when I heard that Stargirl was going to come. I was like, oh gosh, not another one. But I decided to give it a shot just at the get-go, and Breck really drew me into their character. Like, she does play heavy into, oh, I'm a high schooler, like, I'm the queen of the world kind of thing. But I really enjoy how she's building relationships with certain characters, how she's just kind of taking on the headstrong queen of the world role, like, and I guess we'll get into this, but like, the way she just acts and kind of takes control throughout the first 3 episodes. I'm really, really intrigued to see what she does next, and I'm kind of glad I gave it a shot.
Yeah, of course, and I think, as you said, she kind of comes into her own as her own superhero, even just in the first 3 episodes, and they're primarily focused on her. Of course, we know that there's going to be other heroes and other characters that are already teased, but we're not going to, of course, focus on that in the beginning. But, of course, if you're not familiar with Stargirl, I should have started with this, but this is basically just a show regarding probably DC's first superhero team. Of course, it's the Justice League, but this is really just about the Justice Society of America, which includes, of course, like a lot of old heroes that no one really talks about. But this show will kind of just bring all that out, and I think so far, starting with Stargirl is probably the best way to do it. Ernie, what do you think of Black Passenger?
I wasn't really a fan of her the first episode, but as by the end of the episode, she really grew on me. The first episode, it was all right, but then her second and third episodes, she really starting to lean more into the performance and really starting to get more comfortable into the role. I could tell she did a great job. She's a very charming character, and mainly her chemistry with Pat Dugan Stripe. It's really great chemistry with those two. I mean, he's the only one that she's interacted the most with, I think, in this 3 episodes so far, and it's really great. And from the taste we got in Crisis Infinite Earths, that 3-second, team shot was enough to get me interested in watching this show, and it really lived up to the expectations from these first 3 episodes. I think she gave a great performance, backed up great by Luke Wilson. It's solid.
Yeah, as you said, Luke Wilson plays her stepfather, and he's kind of this guy that's kind of that was a sidekick to one of the the biggest heroes of the Justice Society of America, which is Starman, played by Joe McHale. We have a lot of big actors playing some of the older heroes. We don't want to say what their role is so far, but you're going to be pretty satisfied if you're a big fan of the JSA in the very first episode.
Yeah, the Justice Society of America stuff that they have in the show, like we got a taste of it in Legends of Tomorrow. For any other CW DC fans out there, we got a little bit of a taste of that in Legends of Tomorrow, and they did good there. But when you watch Stargirl, yeah, like Marco said, I think anyone who watches this show will be pleasantly surprised, very pleasantly surprised. I was, anyways.
And even going on along that line, it's very evident they had a pretty substantial budget for this TV series, and it's obvious that even though it's on CW, this is not a CW production. This is the next level, definitely probably the higher part of the DC Universe shows in terms of just production quality and visual effects. There's a lot of neat things that they do with Stargirl, with their staff. Some of the villains use a lot of VFX, and just one we'll probably talk about later on that uses completely motion capture VFX, which is it looks good. I think for a show like this to kind of pull it off is pretty substantial. But yeah, what do you guys think of the action? I do want to talk about that because I think even for the first 3 episodes of, I think, a 13 episode season, we do get a lot of action.
I really liked how they played into Courtney's gymnastics background. They played into that really heavy up front, so that it doesn't quite shock you in some of the action sequences, because I was like, whoa, like, did she just really do that? And then I was like, wait a second, she's a gymnast, like, that makes total sense for her.
Yeah, and also, Marcos, I'm glad you brought up the special effects to talk about, because they're really solid. I was really surprised by the CGI and the special effects and the choreography in the show. It's very top notch. Like, it's obvious that it's CGI and not as photorealistic or like in big budget action blockbusters, but it's not terrible and cringy like some CW shows that will not be named. Like Stargirl is a good middle ground in quality, and that just brings the show up to another level for me, because watching this action play out, like, I don't have to suspend my disbelief too much. It's fun to watch. It feels like, and this sounds cliche, but it actually feels like I'm watching a comic book come to life. It's very, like I've said already a lot of times, charming.
Yeah, which certainly makes sense. As we said, Geoff Johns is behind this, big DC Comics guy. I think if you're into DC Comics, it's likely because of Geoff Johns or one of his works. And I do think, although I've never read a Stargirl comic or the GSA for that matter, I think his his style of writing just kind of perfectly lends into live action, especially for a TV series like this. And I'm just really excited to see how that continues. I do want to talk about some of the supporting characters. Of course, we've already talked about Pat Dugan and Courtney Whitmore, but we do have some supporting characters, although they're not focused on too much. I do want to talk about it. But them, of course, the mother of Courtney Whitmore, played by Amy Smart. I thought she was good. The brother is really annoying, and I thought that kind of brought it down.
Yeah, he's there. He's there.
For sure. And I think they focus on them very little, but it's interesting enough to keep you there. But I hope that they kind of lean away, because I think they're good enough for what they have, and I think if they lean a little bit more, we're kind of just losing the audience a little bit. But they're good enough, and they stand on their own just enough. We do have some other supporting characters. Of course, we can't get into exactly who the villains are for the first 3 episodes. DC's kind of just make us not say, which is dumb, but it's not going to be a spoiler once you watch it. But of course, we do get Jake Austin Walker, who plays Henry King Jr. is kind of like from the first people that Courtney Whitmore fights. This is not a spoiler at all. But yeah, I think he's fine. He kind of plugs into everything else, and you'll see later on in some of the episodes. But they set up a lot. I think with the first 3 episodes, you're focusing so much on Stargirl and that family that you don't get too much of the supporting characters, but it's perfectly fine because we're getting a lot of setup, and of course we're setting up the villains, which I think we can talk about. It's not that much of a spoiler at all. It's basically just a reimagining of Injustice Society. It's very much the opposite of the GSA. Very on the nose, but the way that they handle it will really surprise you, and I think especially later in the 2nd and 3rd episode, you'll understand the fact that it's not a very one-dimensional villain team, and that they have their reasons, and they're probably just as important as the GSA themselves. So I do, yeah.
I wanted to say that I think the supporting cast, besides Courtney's family, you know, like you said, also Neil Jackson is in this show, and he's phenomenal in it. The supporting cast in the sense, like, you know, the Injustice Society of America, like, they add depth into these other characters, like just as much depth as Courtney or Pat, that it really provides more intrigue into the story, and they're taking things in a different direction than is expected. Like, it's cheesy, but it works, you know, with the way they handle their supporting cast and, you know, people who are opposed to Courtney and Stargirl. I think it provides a new level of depth to the show that really works to tell a really interesting story.
Yeah, as it says, a little corny sometimes, but it comes off a little comic booky. But it works, totally works, and you kind of buy into it. As we said early on, it's a very charming show. This very kind of not generic superhero stuff, but this is kind of like the most pure superhero show you'll probably watch. It's definitely once again, this is different from the other DC Universe shows because it doesn't lean into the mature side or anything.
It's like a golden age vibe of comics, like golden age comics. Whereas Flash and Arrow are like modern day or Silver Age, you can consider Stargirl to be like live action golden age comics.
Yeah, that's pretty much the perfect way to describe it, really. I do want to go into some of the negative aspects of the show that we probably noticed. I haven't heard you guys' thoughts just yet, so I'll start with Katie. What are some of the things that you thought kind of lacked in the show that you want to see improve once the show premieres?
So I honestly didn't really have a whole lot of negatives from what it was. It was a very unexpected compared to previous DC shows I watched, because I don't have a comic book background at all. Like, Arrow was my first comic book show, so like, if that says anything about me. But I really enjoyed a lot of the little things and how campy it was. And I liked the focus on Stargirl and Pat, or Stripe rather, just kind of building their teamwork aspects up. I do realize that there are supposed to be other characters that come on and join the team, but to me, I just liked the character building in the beginning. I don't really have a whole lot of negative to say.
I mean, that's totally fair. It's one of those things that saying something negative doesn't necessarily mean it's like a good critique. It's just kind of like a nitpick.
Yeah.
For me though, I didn't like almost none of the high school aspect, which is not very present, but it's kind of heavily present in the first episode. It comes off super cliche. You can tell they write it like a comic book, and you can tell these are old people thinking this is what teens talk, how teens talk like and how they act. Super cliche, but I think later on, as the show goes on, it's a lot less focused on that. But yeah, I think that entire high school aspect was pretty much lacking for me. I did find some of the Stargirl family stuff, especially with the mom and the kid, especially in the second and third episode, to be kind of like, I don't want to say wasted time, but it definitely bogs down things a lot, especially when you have like when you have like characters like Courtney Whitmore and then the stepfather doing all their superhero stuff. It's a big downgrade, and it kind of like messes with the pace of the show. But other than that, yeah.
You want to be going back to what they're doing instead of focusing on what the non-superhero members of the family are doing.
It comes off as filler, and I think it's quite clear that's what it is. But still, that being said, it won't take you out of it. It's kind of just like there.
Also, I want to say, like, the background and setting of the show. I know we want to talk about negatives, but
I'm gonna go ahead.
I just finished watching the episode, so I'm kind of on a high right now, Stargirl high, if you will. The backdrop and setting of it is also refreshing. Like, it kind of subverts the expectations. You're not in a big city. You're like in a small town, but it also has sort of this eerie vibe to it, like kind of like Twin Peaks-esque, if you will.
I don't want to compare it to Riverdale, but it has the Riverdale type vibe where it kind of takes place in this.
I said Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I think that's probably more
yeah.
Still,
like in a small town that has, I guess, some sort of like ominous, like, history to it. I thought that was interesting, but like other than that, like to talk about negatives, sometimes there's a lot of cheesy dialogue in it, and it works like 80% of the time, I would say. And not all the supporting cast is as compelling as others. Like, there are some that are really great, and there are some that are completely one-dimensional and are just there because they need to be. And like you said, the pacing. Like, there's times where you're really into what's going on with Stargirl or Courtney or whatever you have it, and then it'll go back to another member of the family just for the sake of filler to fill up that 40-minute runtime.
Yeah, and I think as we're all kind of hinting, especially you and Katie hinted, although we're focusing on a lot of old heroes and a lot of old characters, the fact that a lot of people don't know about them kind of brings this kind of new sense of like charm and like a discovery when watching this show. Because really, I had no clue about any of these characters, to be honest. But watching it, it's kind of like you're watching brand new heroes kind of just come to life, and it's cool because you don't see it nowadays. It's heroes that you've already seen before in a movie or a TV show, and here it's just new and just feels new. I feel like that's so rare nowadays.
Yeah, I agree. I can see that. That makes sense.
Because I think most people that are going to watch this show don't know most, if any, of the GSA members, except for maybe the Flash or Green Lantern, which I won't say will pop up, but they're definitely present in a way.
But
that's all I say.
Yeah, there's a lot of great, promising history to be explored in this show, like a lot.
Yeah, and the show will stand on its own. It doesn't need a crossover, even though I'm sure it'll happen. It can stand on its own with its own backstory, its own history, its own canon, and there's enough there to explore for sure. I think we're like 20 minutes. I think that's we've talked about pretty much everything I think we could have talked about. Without going to spoilers.
That they'll let us talk about.
I do want to talk about some of the villains. I think there's some really big highlights to the show, but apparently they don't want us to reveal, which is fine. But if you do a quick Google search, you can find out who they are. But that's not on me. That's on them. But yeah, of course. So overall, maybe just finishing thoughts here. Maybe just throw a rating out of 10. Why not? Jackson never does it, but I'm here, and he's not.
I'm feeling a strong 8. Strong 8, light 9.
How about you, Kay?
Yeah, I would be kind of in the same boat.
I'm literally exactly that. Literally, it's an 8 out of 10 for me.
Great consensus here. No conflict. You love to see
it's
it.
not the 10 out of 10, but it's like it's not perfect, but it's exactly the type of superhero show you would want to watch. If you're into superhero shows,
It's a good time to
I
watch.
don't think there's a reason for you to not watch it. I don't think there's anything that should turn you off from watching it. But it's not like this niche of like Titans or Doom Patrol. It's for everyone, and it's literally for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's lighthearted too. I mean, a lot of superhero shows have been trending into the more the dark, mature, existential type of dread in shows. And this it's a lighthearted, it's just there to show you a good time.
Yeah, it gets into the drama aspect. It's not, everything lighthearted, but it's still not to the point like Titans.
Oh, no, my bad. Yeah, I don't want to misinterpret. There's some heavy moments in this show, but
Well, yeah, people are like, there's no blood, there's no like, people aren't saying that. It's pure, but realistic at points, just enough.
And it's like it's brighter in its production design and set design, like their home where Courtney lives, their family. It's very 50s-esque, like very old fashioned in its production design. Bright cinematography, bright colors all around. Even when it's dark, you can see the stars illuminated up in the sky. It's very dreamlike.
And although the first 2 episodes has big action sequences in the dark, there's one in the 3rd episode that's completely in the day. A lot of VFX. I think it works for the most part, but I do like the fact that they really did go that route, kind of do it in the day, and they didn't really care. It didn't look pretty great for the most part. It goes to show that there's like something to this show that's kind of just different from anything else. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Before we just go into spoilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, where can they follow you guys on Twitter? You, Ernie?
You can follow me on Twitter at @thisis_Ernesto. Very easy to follow.
Yep.
This is Ernesto.
I would hope so. Katie?
You can follow me on Twitter at KGelshop13.
Mine's more complicated. It's at BizGamer9. But most importantly, you should follow us on Twitter at FullCircleCine. Go to our site at fullcirclecinema.com. I think this review will be on the site as well. And maybe I'll write a review on there. Who knows? But just keep everyone updated. We will be doing week-to-week reviews, going full spoiler discussions. I don't know if you guys will be on it, but I'm sure you guys will be invited. It's been a really fun time. I think it's a good switch of pace. I don't have to talk to Jackson or Jacob all the time. But of course, and yeah, like and subscribe, share, please. I think this is a very good show, and you should watch it, please.
Subscribe, leave a comment below. You know how it works.
Do it.